Hi everyone, so today I thought I would share with you guys tips, tricks, how to level up your beauty vlogging game. Outside of the beauty and the makeup, video making is an art and it's a science as well, and it's just very interesting, and I've learned a lot in my 3+4 years of making videos for like online content media. So I kind of know what to invest in, I know how to start out. I'm gonna be jumping through camera, angles, shot types, what you want to achieve, how to best optimize your settings for beauty vlogging in your camera, background setup, lighting, sound. I will put time frames down below if you want to like refer to the stuff. Hopefully I'm hardworking enough for that. I am. I'll do it. First and the most important thing I want to talk about is your camera. What kind of camera are you using? For beauty vlogging, you would want something that's a bit crisp, clear, but also flattering on your skin. And I find the Sony cameras have a very good reproduction of skin tones. I don't really have to color grade it. I mean, this is obviously gonna be slightly color graded. Ideally, a good zoom range. It doesn't have to be like telephoto or something super crazy, but you just want to be able to have like a close-up shot, a medium close-up shot, and then like a medium shot. Or you want like 2 prime lenses if you're like super ballin'. You also want it to be light, portable, and preferably slightly smaller. Especially if you're starting out, there's no point in getting a huge DSLR with no flip screen. You can't see yourself. You're gonna want something that encourages you to make videos and therefore has to be the most convenient. Go outside, you know, natural daylight, shoot your lookbooks, shoot your like face details or like check-ins throughout the day. It's easy to put inside your bag. And also the second thing is, if your vanity or like your table doesn't have much space, this is ideal. Like, you don't want to take up half of your makeup table with like another DSLR. This is the Sony RX100 Mark V, and it has a 24-70 zoom range. The lowest f-stop on aperture is 1.8. When you have a low aperture, it's good because it allows a lot of light in. It's just like the size. It has a very shallow depth of field. You see this? Okay, blurry background. You can also create like a bokeh kind of effect, especially if you have lights in the background, you know, that like soft kind of ooh. High apertures like make the image very flat, which is great for landscapes, but you don't need that for portraits. Also, it has a very big and very comfortable flip screen, and you want this because when you're filming yourself, you gotta make sure you're in focus, you gotta make sure it's recording, you gotta make sure the exposure's alright. The only thing I don't like about this is that there's no external microphone jack, which is really irritating. If you're not like an audio or like a techie snob like I can be sometimes, not all the time. I try not to be, especially for my price range. But when I'm not being like a super perfectionist, I don't mind it. I just would recommend you turn off the wind noise blocking setting out. There's this wind noise recording. You want to turn that off. Because I turned that on and I thought, oh my god, yeah, I'm never gonna get like wind sounds, because wind sounds are super annoying and they muffle you and just sounds bad. When you turn it on permanently, it makes you sound like you're underwater. Super compressed. It's just not a nice sound. I turned that on for the vegan slurp and I was like crying while editing the footage. I had to like edit everything in a separate pose, do the audio to make it sound alright. When you're listening to me now, you hear that like my voice sounds like how I'm speaking to you in real life. That's because there's a good capture of like the timbre, the bass, etc. And I'm using an external mic. This is one of the first few times I'm using an external mic, which is quite exciting. I'm using the Rode VideoMicro and I'm shooting on an A6400. And I'm not gonna lie, the 6400 is a little bit more pricey, especially because I have like a fancy video lens for it. I'm using the 18-105 with a fixed aperture of 4. I know it's gonna sound a little bit technical for people that don't understand like lenses and stuff, but in case anyone wants to know, I got this because even though this is a really great beauty camera, I want to make higher quality videos, and I usually, you know, have this on a tripod and I'm talking to it, so I want to make sure like the quality is the absolute best, and it just makes me happy lah when I'm editing my own videos. If you don't want to invest in a camera, either a mirrorless or a point and shoot, you can always start with your smartphone, but I wouldn't recommend it because especially when it comes to beauty vlogging or makeup tutorials, you want like an accurate skin tone or like eyeshadow palette, like color reproduction, and you also want a crispness of like close-ups, for example. So if you're really serious about it, and of course with a camera you can use it for like other reasons as well, right? I would just recommend you get like a point and shoot like this. Shooting video is one thing, but taking thumbnails and, you know, stills and Instagram images is another thing. What I like about this camera is that in its settings, there's actually a soft skin kind of effect. You can turn it on and it gives you like a general softness to your skin, doesn't capture all of your pores. And for beauty vlogging, especially for a thumbnail, if you don't want to spend so much time like on Photoshop, you know, blurring and face tuning and all of that, you can always turn that on. I always turn it on to like a low setting. You can go to mid or high, but I never go there because I think it looks very unrealistic. And also just be aware that it doesn't turn on in video. But it's good because when you're filming a video, especially if it's a makeup review, a foundation review, or like a skincare review, you want to be able to see the texture. The camera here also has a dedicated portrait mode if you just want to like fast game it, you know, take a photo, take a video. The other thing that I really like about this that I don't see a lot of cameras have is an ND filter, and it's called neutral density. It's basically just like sunglasses for your camera. If you're outdoors, let's say, it's way too bright, you know, your exposure's like out of the world. You want to have like that shallow depth of field, that like lower f-stop, you know, letting a lot of light in. You can use the ND filter to just kind of like mellow everything out so that nothing is blown out, your details are still there. So let's put a bookmark in this lighting kind of section. I'm gonna talk more about it later. Another thing to consider is how you're filming, your angle. I would say a general guideline, don't give yourself too much headspace and cut yourself off here. Isn't that weird? Like what's going on here? And if you put it way too low, you cut off the top of your head, it looks strange. People are gonna wonder what's on top of your head. Like there was a YouTuber that was shooting without showing the top of her head for like 3 years, and then in comments everyone was just like, what's on the top of your head? Like that's weird. So shoot at what makes the most sense, what looks the most natural. And in terms of angle, like me for example, I'm shooting slightly above, so I would say the camera is at my forehead, like my lens is at my forehead and it's just down a little bit. And this is because I want to avoid the dreaded double chin, because I tend to do this quite a lot. I think this is quite a flattering angle. I think you can look at me pretty well. Generally you want to stick to eye level. Something that's a little bit too high, you just kind of look like Britney Spears in like the debut album where you're like crouching. You just look strange and then you're talking like this. And if you shoot it too low, first of all, double chin, and there's a lot of shadows that are cast onto your face because of how it's like that. You know what I mean? Why would you want someone to look up your nostrils for like 10 minutes? I don't understand. So let's not do that. A general guideline, and I like to do this for a really long time, was to just keep it at eye level. It's very comfortable. It's something that your viewers are familiar with. Moving on, the next thing we're gonna talk about is what is your camera on? Is it like handheld or is it on a tripod? If it's on a tripod, you want to make sure that your tripod is good. Good doesn't mean expensive. Good just means it's sturdy, it holds its own, doesn't falter. It can be heavy if you're never planning to bring it out. Tripods can last a really long time if you take good care of it, so I would recommend you to get at least like a mid-range or like not absolute crap one. Cheap tripods aren't bad, it just depends on what your camera needs. So for example, my camera setup right now, I have a mic and then I have a mirrorless camera with a pretty big lens. So I need something that's sturdy, that can hold the weight and also be easy for me to move around. So my tripod is like a Benro. It's, I would say I paid like $120–$130 for it, but I don't recommend it because you twist it to lock the legs instead of like having the clips. I prefer having the clips because it's much more sturdy and it doesn't move around. I got one really basic one for like $15–$20 on Amazon when I was in New York, and that worked perfectly. Video tripods and photo tripods are different. Video ones have like the fluid head that allows for you to have like smooth movements. But if you're doing beauty vlogging, you're just doing this, sitting in front of camera and talking, you honestly don't need a video tripod. Video tripods can be very expensive. They cost upwards of a few $100s. Just get something entry level, doesn't have to be expensive. I would recommend you to get a tripod though, because if you were just to put something on like a book or something, you can't control the angle, so you can never get something like this sturdy. If you do, you risk it falling off. It's just not a good look. And if you put it on a book, it's just gonna like, there's gonna be a white band from where like the book ends or like the table ends, and it's just weird. $15 or like even cheaper on Taobao, you can find it. You know, it's not a big deal. If you have limited space and you want to put it on your desk, you can always get a mini tripod or one of those gorilla ones where they have little bulbs and then you can twist and mold them whichever way so that they can balance on uneven surfaces. This is a Sony stand grip, I think, if I'm not wrong. It is a mini tripod, which is adorable, and it's also a grip. And it also has a USB-C cable that connects to this camera in particular for me to be able to shoot video, shoot photos, photos and also zoom, but this is expensive. If you're gonna be a professional vlogger, I would recommend you get something like this. If not, you can always get a selfie stick. You can always get a mini tripod that you can put down on your table and then just grab like this. If you're getting a tripod for a camera as small and as light as this, then you can get the cheaper ones because they don't have to carry so much weight. You know how like with cheap bags, you cannot put too many things, if not it'll break. You need something that's really sturdy. Think about it the same way with your tripods and with your handheld grips and your, you know, mini tripods. Also, to help yourself along, don't forget to like check if you have like inbuilt stabilization in your camera. This one does. I think it's called IBIS or Steady Shot. Turn it on. When you're doing a beauty vlogging, when you're doing tutorials, for example, most important thing, have a flip screen, be able to see what you're doing. If you want to like level up, if you want to ball, if you really want to capture all of them details, you can get an external monitor. You can get it as cheap as $50, you can get it as expensive as $500. You can also, as a pro tip, use your laptop or your phone as a remote viewfinder or to like kind of check, especially if you're further away or if you're like doing a lookbook by yourself, that kind of thing. So I use Sony everything, right? So on my phone, I have Imaging Edge. It gives you the option of connecting your camera to the smartphone and then you can see a remote viewfinder and everything. It's pretty great. I'm sure other brands have it as well, but for me, I just find that the Sony one is very workable and very easy to use. If you're also doing makeup, I recommend sitting in front of a mirror or having like maybe an eyeshadow palette or like a face powder with a mirror nearby, so that when you're doing your makeup, you don't have to like do this. You know, you can just kind of like... Honestly, it's not as easy as it looks, like looking cute while putting on your makeup, especially mascara or like lipstick. I gotta be like, and then be like, ha ha ha, cute, I'm so cute, just applying on my bottom lip. So that's just kind of like small things here and there. And in terms of your background, you want something that doesn't distract, and you want something that kind of complements your mood or your aesthetic or like your vibe. So for my background, you know, this is my new place. It's kind of iconic, like everyone's seen the apartment tour. Everyone knows that this is the wall. If you've watched my apartment tour, I, you know, would like to update you that I've switched my TV around. So my TV is by the bench and then my sofa's here so that I can shoot with this background. I also have accents at the back, and this is, you know, further helped by the shallow depth of field. Just small accent stuff that really represents me. It's kind of my style, and I like to wear things that are, first of all, not stripes because it creates bars, and something that preferably stands out from the background so it's easier to kind of like focus on me for both the camera and the viewer lah. If you're struggling to find like a good backdrop because you're shooting from your room, if you're just starting out, for example, there's nothing wrong with like buying a piece of cloth and then just like taping it to the walls, making it kind of like a flat and clean kind of situation, but it doesn't have to be. You just want to make sure that there's ample light, or if you have a good lighting situation, bookmark again. In a backdrop, you just want two things: for it not to be a distraction and for it to complement whatever style you're making. So my biggest tip is just to make sure it's clean. Make sure it's not annoying, make sure it's not messy. If you've got clothes in the back, like a pile of laundry setup, if you have like an open door with people walking in and out, it's gonna be very, very distracting. So just make sure it's a clean setup, a setup that you can completely control, and make sure it looks good. Now moving on to lighting. I like to light my stuff with natural light. First of all, it's free, thank you son. And second of all, it's very, very flattering, especially for beauty vlogging. If you're one of those people that want to jump into making like super Instagram, YouTube, Jeffree Star style, like studio lights kind of videos for your makeup, prepare to be spending like at least $1,000, like at the very least, and a lot of space, preferably like a studio space. And you know, if you stay in Singapore, that's not gonna happen. So I would recommend you to just shoot outside a window. Make sure you're facing the front of it so that you get a nice gentle wash of color. If your curtains have that like just kind of translucent white layer to kind of like diffuse the light, use that because it's gonna be really, really nice. You don't want the light to be really harsh on your face, causing any like strong shadows or lines or like just a big glare, because that's gonna screw up like your exposure, especially if your camera's on auto mode. You can kind of film with the light to the side, as you can see from now. It does hit your cheek pretty well, like a 3/4 kind of look. I'm actually on a slight 3/4 just because that's how my sofa's laid out. I wouldn't recommend you to go 90 degrees at the side or even backlit because it's just not conducive. If nighttime is the only only time you can film, I would recommend you getting a ring light. You can get a ring light for the cheapest, I would say $150, 120 used. I would recommend you get a dimmer. The dimmer just allows you to control like the intensity of the light instead of just turning it on and off. I didn't get the one with the dimmer option and I really regret it because sometimes when you're super close to it and you want to be able to see the colors, you don't want the light to wash you out. When light is too bright, that's what it does. Everything just kind of looks white or like a bit paler or like less saturated. Honestly, for a beginner, your ceiling light and the ring light is good enough. If you want to make it super dramatic, turn off your ceiling light and then just have that light on your face. Last but not least, sound. We kind of talked about it in the camera. Inbuilt microphones, they're not super important in beauty vlogging, especially for tutorials and stuff, because you can always go in with a voice recorder. Voiceovers are a very real thing in the YouTube community, especially for like makeup tutorials, because you can chop and you can focus on doing your makeup and you can fast forward, slow-mo it, that kind of thing. Even if you're not just starting out, you don't have to buy a voice recorder, you don't have to buy a microphone. My iPhone 7 works amazing for voiceovers. There's been a lot of times, I think the bullet journal one as well, I just use my iPhone recorder for that, record it to voice memos, airdrop it to myself, bring it in, maybe do a little bit of editing here and there, but as long as you're in a quiet environment, and I'm talking no fan, turn that shit off, girl. A lot of times we don't realize how loud whirring is or like ticking sounds or humming sounds, you know, especially for fridges and stuff, until you start editing and you're like, oh my god, this humming sound. Our brains just naturally tune it out because once you've been hearing it for a while, it's just like a natural survival instinct kind of thing. You just tune it out, but your camera doesn't, and so it just picks all of these things up. Just make sure that you're in a good environment, preferably one with not too much echo. Don't be doing your voiceovers in your bathroom thinking it's gonna be quiet and chill, because the tiles is gonna be very echoey and very like annoying and kind of messy sounding. You can do it in front of your closet or your wardrobe because clothes are a very good absorber, or you can just do it in your bedroom. It's fine, it's not that bad. So that's what you want to do if you want to get external audio that's like super crisp. But when you're just starting out, honestly, the inbuilt mic is okay. So yeah, I think that's about it. Those are all of my tips. I know it's a very chapalang video. It has like a lot of stuff kind of like mishmashed and interweaved with each other, but you have to realize that video making and shooting, for example, everything plays a part in the final image, and a lot of it needs to be fine-tuned to like your personality, your style, what you want to do in the video, and also your environment. These are just like tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Hopefully you can level up your beauty vlogging, beauty guru game, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe. Comment down below if you want to see more of these things. Love any excuse to talk about it, so let me know if you enjoy it, and also don't forget to hit that post notifications button to receive my videos hot off the press, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! High five! We did it lah. You've been educated. I don't know if I was that great an educator, but like